Hello students, welcome once again to this channel. Part 4 of the lesson Sexual Reproduction in Flowering Plants of Chapter 2, Class 12 Biology CBSE. So, before that, subscribe and share it with your friends, and don't forget to click the bell icon for more and more videos to come. Okay, come on, let us move on to the lesson. Artificial hybridization. In this, only the desired pollen grains are used for pollination. The stigma is protected from contamination, that means from unwanted pollen grain. So, the stigma is protected or covered from unwanted pollen grains. This is achieved by emasculation and bagging techniques. Now, let us see what is meant by emasculation. If the female parent bears bisexual flowers, removal of anthers from the flower bud before the anther dehisces is necessary. Suppose, if the female parent bears bisexual flowers means a flower contains both male and female reproductive organs. In this case, we don't want the pollen grains from the same flower to come and land on the stigma. So, removal of anthers from the flower bud is very essential. When before the anther splits and throws the pollen grains out, that is called dehisces. This is done by means of a pair of forceps. This process is called emasculation. It means the removal of anthers from the flower by means of a forceps is called emasculation. Then comes the bagging. Emasculated flowers have to be covered with a bag of suitable size, generally made up of butter paper, to prevent contamination of its stigma with unwanted pollen. So after emasculation, the emasculated flowers or the female flowers have to be covered. Otherwise, unwanted pollen grains from some other flowers may come and land on this. This process is called bagging. When the stigma of a bagged flower attains receptivity, mature pollen grains collected from anthers of the male parent are dusted on the stigma, and the flowers are rebagged and the fruits allowed to develop. Let me explain it in detail. Now, the flowers are bagged and the stigma of the bagged flower has attained receptivity. It means now it is ready to accept the pollen grains from other flowers. By this time, pollen grains from the desired plant, from the plant where we are in need of the pollen grains, they are collected and they are dusted on the stigma. Now the pollen grains, the desired ones, are dusted on the stigma, and again it is rebagged so that further any other pollen grains, any other unwanted pollen grains may not come and land on it. Artificial hybridization continuation. If the female parent produces unisexual flowers, there is no need of emasculation. In the case of bisexual flowers, only emasculation is needed because we are supposed to remove the anthers. But in the case of unisexual flowers, the flowers consist of only female part or the male part. Here the emasculation is not at all essential because in these flowers they would have only the female reproductive organs. The female flower buds are bagged before the flowers open, but only the emasculation process, the technique is not at all needed here, but we are supposed to bag these flowers because some unwanted pollen grains may come and land. When the stigma becomes receptive, pollination is carried out using the desired pollen and the flower is rebagged. So when it becomes mature and becomes receptive, to ready to accept the pollen grains, it is open and the desired pollen grains are dusted on it, and again it is rebagged. Now comes the very important topic called double fertilization. What is meant by double fertilization? After entering one of the synergids, the pollen tube, the pollen grains, after landing on the stigma, they develop pollen tubes and it travels all the way through the style and reaches the ovule we have studied. Now, before entering it, first it enters into the synergids only. It is guided by filiform apparatus and all we have studied. Now, after entering one of the synergids, the pollen tube releases the two male gametes into the cytoplasm of the synergid. One of the male gametes moves towards the egg cell and fuses with its nucleus. Thus, it completes the syngamy. In other words, fertilization. This results in the formation of a diploid cell, that is the zygote. The other male gamete moves towards the polar nuclei located in the central cell and fuses with them to produce a triploid primary endosperm nucleus. It is abbreviated as PEN, P-E-N. Why it is called triploid? Already there were two nuclei. Now the male gamete also goes and fuses with it. So altogether, how many nuclei are there now? 3. So it is called triploid. As this involves the fusion of 3 haploid nuclei, it is termed as triple fusion. Again, in this process of fusion, how many nuclei are involved? 3. How? 2 from the polar nuclei and 1 from the male gamete. So altogether 3 haploid nuclei are involved. So it is termed as triple fusion. Since 2 types of fusions, syngamy and another one is triple fusion, take place in an embryo sac, this phenomenon is termed as double fertilization. This event is unique to flowering plants. It doesn't occur in all sort of plants. It is very unique to the flowering plants. The central cell after triple fusion becomes the primary endosperm cell, which is abbreviated as PEZ. So the central cell after this triple fusion becomes the PEZ, primary endosperm cell, and develops into the endosperm. The zygote develops into an embryo. Post-fertilization events. What are the post-fertilization events? Number 1, development of endosperm and embryo. Then maturation of ovules into seeds. Then transformation of ovary into fruit. These 3 are the post-fertilization events. Now endosperm. Endosperm development precedes embryo development. Why? It means endosperm gets developed before the embryo gets developed. Why? The primary endosperm cell divides repeatedly and forms a triploid endosperm tissue. Now, the cells of the endosperm tissue are filled with reserve food materials. We have already studied about endosperm tissue. Now, the cells of the endosperm tissue are filled with reserve food materials. These are used for the nutrition of the developing embryo. This reserve food is used for the nutrition of the developing embryo. This is why the endosperm gets developed before the embryo itself. Most commonly, the PEN, primary endosperm nucleus undergoes successive nuclear divisions to give rise to free nuclei. It is the primary endosperm nucleus, it undergoes successive nuclear divisions and finally it gives rise to free nuclei. Now, what is meant by free nuclei? Nuclei without cell walls, they are called free nuclei. This stage of endosperm development is called free nuclear endosperm. So the endosperm without walls around the nuclei, this is called free nuclear endosperm. Continuation of post-fertilization events. After the formation of free nuclear endosperm, cell wall formation occurs later on and the endosperm becomes cellular. So, immediately the cell wall doesn't get formed, but after the formation of free nuclear endosperm, cell wall formation occurs later on and the endosperm, now it becomes cellular. The coconut water from tender coconut is a free nuclear endosperm that is made up of thousands of nuclei. Now we all consume tender coconut, it's very tasty. That water is nothing but free nuclear endosperm which is made up of thousands of nuclei. Now the surrounding white kernel is the cellular endosperm. So in the case of a coconut, we have got two types of endosperm. One is free nuclear endosperm, the another one is cellular endosperm. Continuation of post-fertilization events. Endosperm may either be completely consumed by the developing embryo. Example, pea, groundnut, beans before seed maturation. In the cases of pea, groundnut and beans plant, before the seeds get matured, the endosperm is completely consumed by the embryo of these plants. Or endosperm may persist in the mature seed in some cases. Even after the maturation of seeds also, the remnants, the leftovers of endosperm exist. Example, castor and coconut, and be used up during seed germination. This leftover or the remnant of endosperm present in these type of plants are used up during seed germination. Embryo. Embryo develops at the micropylar end of the embryo sac where the zygote is situated. So where does the embryo develop? At the micropylar end of the embryo sac, because there only the zygote is situated. Most zygotes divide only after certain amount of endosperm is formed. Yes, then only they can consume the endosperm. This is an adaptation to provide assured nutrition to the developing embryo. So this type of adaptation is present in plants. That's why endosperms get developed before the formation of embryos. Those seeds differ greatly. The early stages of embryo development are similar in both monocotyledons and dicotyledons. It means seeds are different in size and their properties and all. Even then, the early stages of embryo development are similar, are same in both monocotyledons and dicotyledons. Continuation of embryo. The zygote gives rise to the proembryo and subsequently to the globular, heart-shaped and mature embryo. So first the zygote gives rise to the proembryo and then subsequently globular, heart-shaped and mature embryos are formed. A typical dicotyledonous embryo consists of an embryonal axis and two cotyledones. So an embryo consists of an embryonal axis and two cotyledones. The portion of the embryonal axis above the level of cotyledones is the epicotyl, which terminates with the plumule or stem tip. The cylindrical portion below the level of the cotyledones is hypocotyl that terminates with the radicle or root tip. Simply speaking, the portion of the embryo which is above the axis is called epicotyl, and the portion which is below the level of the cotyledones is hypocotyl. The root tip is covered with the root cap. Continuation of embryo. Embryos of monocotyledones possess only one cotyledone. That's why it is called as monocotyledonous. In the grass family, this single cotyledone is called scutellum. The scutellum is situated towards one side. It means lateral of the embryonal axis. At its lower end, the embryonal axis has the radicle and root cap enclosed in an undifferentiated sheath called chlorhiza. So, the radicle and root cap, they are enclosed in an undifferentiated sheath kind of thing which is known as chlorhiza. Continuation. The portion of the embryonal axis above the level of attachment of scutellum is the epicotyl. Epicotyl has a shoot apex and a few leaf primordia enclosed in a hollow foliar structure called coleoptile. Epicotyl has a shoot apex and a few leaf-like formations. They are enclosed in a hollow foliar structure which is called coleoptile. So with this video session has come to an end. Let us continue with our studies in the next video.
Like, share and comment and subscribe our channel and click the bell button for more videos. Thank you.